Can a Fox ever be as strong as a Meteor? Before we get started, let me just toot my own horn just a little bit. This is a video I posted at the beginning of this year in 2024, immediately after GENG's victory at VCT Pacific Kickoff. Take a look. How did GENG become the new Pacific champions? Some say it's Texture going back to the duelist role. Some say it's Munchkin, proving he was right as an IGL. Or maybe it was Charon, the new godlike aimer. And while all that helped, I'll go ahead and say that the more I think about it, it was actually thanks to the one true GENG player all along, Meteor. I'm just gonna say I called it. Now, when comparing a Fox and a Meteor, a lot of people are gonna start to say that no, they can't possibly be compared. I mean, NASA would probably say no. But to be honest, I'm not so sure. I do think it can get close. But what I will say is that it's not simply a comparison of power level. What made Meteor so great on GENG wasn't simply his aim, though it did help a ton. It's understanding the goals of the team and himself and where to find that value. Let's be honest, I mean, Foxy9 hits some nasty duels as well when he's locked in, but it's more a question of the consistency and the value or the impact. So with the Soup Valorant League wrapping up, we're now only about a month away from VCT 2025 kicking off. And so I decided to take a look back and find some simple comparisons for the old GENG versus the new GENG, specifically the Sentinel role, right? So Meteor in 2024 versus Foxy9 now going forward for 2025. And before we start these comparisons, I want to emphasize that this is not meant to be like a one-way criticism video. I want to emphasize that things can go several ways from here, right? The things I'm about to mention are not impossible to learn, but also sometimes they're not up to just one person. It might not be just up to Foxy9 on how that can change or how to improve on that. Sometimes it's the comms, it's the chemistry. I mean, he's not the only person that was part of the roster change, right? Yeoman's in for Lakia now. There's a lot of layers here. It's a different meta. There's new agents. So there's a lot of things to consider, but at the very least, hopefully this brings to light a little bit more that stats or even aim itself isn't simply about reaction and, you know, a steady arm. A lot of times it's a lot more of those layers outside of what we just see from the game screen. So we're going to talk about three things today. First up, it's going to be about timings, or what I would like to describe it as, how are you getting your information? Second of all, we will talk about the duels, but it's going to be a comparison of, are you playing to frag or are you playing to win? And then last but not least, definitely not least, we're going to talk a little bit about comms, although I'm not part of the team comms, so I don't want to get into this too much because it's going to lead to a lot of assumptions. But I do want to highlight maybe something that's going on where there's a comparison between, are you a catalyst or are you just the report? So let's jump right in. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is a couple of rounds from the grand final of the SVL between NRG and GENG. It's not always going to be in order, but first up, we're taking a look at the third map, Ascent. Now, GENG is on the attack. They are now on their buy round. NRG won the pistol and the anti-eco afterwards. So GENG, they've got their 5 rifles. They've all got full armor. It's a full buy. And they're going to basically kind of wait to suss things out, as it oftentimes goes during your first buy round, right? You're not going to go and take any crazy risks. You get information with the recon and mid, and it looks like there's going to be some dig for that. They're just waiting around the one way in main. They're not going for any crazy plays. Meanwhile, Foxy9, keep an eye on him. He's got the turret set up. His alarm bot gets broken, and so he does a little bit of exploring, but nothing too crazy, right? He goes for a little bit of a nanoswarm play as well, just to kind of push people out, make sure that no one's creeping up close range with something like the Judge. But otherwise, he's really just waiting. He's waiting to see if anyone's ever going to peek out against him, because there's some noise and movement from his teammates on A. Now, this is on 1.5 times speed, so things are looking a little quicker. But take a look at the clock. All right, we are now at the 30-second mark, and the execute is about to happen. There's already so much contention, but GENG does not have that much information themselves either, right? Earlier they did see Mata, they hear the updraft, so you know that there's someone in line, but you have no information about the actual site itself. You don't really have any information here, and you don't really have any information here. I mean, you scouted out a little bit, but it's not like you were able to dig deep and really push them out, or You know, it's not like you planted someone here in pizza or anything like that. So GenG is starved for information. And during all of that, I mean, Foxy9, the only information he got was, hey, guys, my alarm bot broke right at the start of the round, and I nanoswarmed, but it's not like he was able to peek off of that either. There's just no confirmation, right? You kind of have an assumption that no one's holding close, but even since then, like, another 20 seconds has passed, so someone could have crept back up if they wanted. Regardless, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that for 70 seconds in this round, Foxy9 has not really gotten any information for the team, right? Yeoman and Texture, they try to scout out mid, right? They're able to at least deny some information. You know, you've got Karen on Munchkin. They're trying to deny any push out. They're not able to gain too much information. They gain some information. They get the ult orb, though, and so they're making sure that people are tied up in A, that they've drawn attention in A. But I mean, Foxy9 is denying information here, but that's kind of like that. Like, if you're giving up information here, that's when you know you've lost control of the map, right? And so, and I'm not saying that every point in time, like, the Sentinel should always be pushing in for aggressive lurks. That's a terrible idea. But the fact of the matter is like, your team doesn't have much information. So something here, I mean, whether it's maybe, you know, now that you have the turret and no one has been peeking out, you're down to 30 seconds. Listen, either you're taking this space so it can be a fast rotate if things go south, or a pinch right through mid, or you're just making sure that you know if someone's coming in the flank and you're helping take mid and you're getting ready to either go deeper into the flank or join your team here, right? Like, there needs to be a little bit of more proactive movement in my head of how this pans out. He's still watching B main, seeing, okay, like, we've made noise. Is anyone ever going to push out of B main? And then he's waiting to see in mid. You've got 20 seconds, right? So at this point, you have to cross. Eventually, he does. He's just making sure that he's not going to get picked off. And he's going to come over. And by the time he arrives, nobody is here. You've got 8 seconds left. He gets picked off with the judge. It's a triple kill for Som, and the round ends. Now, again, is it just on Foxy? Probably not. I mean, GenG, I don't think, you know, they didn't really take full control here. They got NRG. First of all, let's take this opportunity to say this. NRG just, I think, outplayed GenG across the board. But again, in this round, just keep this in mind, because we're going to take some comparisons, you know, to Meteor as well. All right, we're taking a look at round 15. GenG is on the defense. You've got Foxy9 set up with his turret, now nano swarms and alarm bot here in A. He's going to do a little scouting with the one way. I like that, right? Make sure that they're not hopping over. Make sure that there's no funkiness going on. You get some of that information during that time. Classic GenG stuff. They've pushed out on the other side. They've got a little bit of a cheeky setup with the judge, and so he falls back. All right, so at this point in time, all right, you've tried to delay them here. So the idea is if you're coming into A main, you've got your main force is here in tree, right? So if they're coming into A main, you're looking to basically deny anyone past the initial entry. You've got the nanostorms, you got the alarm bot, you got the turret. The turret's also here to help scout out for tree as well, in case these two want to move. Like, these two, right? The force of Munchkin and Texture are kind of meant to be the main fighting force for any beginning firefight. Outside of that, so there's two goals here from GenG, the way they're set up. Either you're pushing them into Charon, or at least you're holding on to B main, let's say, right? So if you push them through mid, hopefully the idea is that Yeoman's able to get that information. He's able to join Charon, and then they're able to make sure that they stay alive here with the close range firefights. Or you're eventually going to push them through B main so that you have that. Or if they do come A, you're going to buy enough time. You're holding on to at least tree so that maybe you get a pick, or even if it's a 5v5, you're set up for the retake. That's the overall idea. All right, so there's a little bit of contention here in tree. Okay, you get a little bit of information over here in mid. Now, Yeoman's like, okay, we're not quite sure what's going on here. So Karen's already set up, and they decide, okay, we're just going to bunker down on B main. And with that, during that, let's just mention the fact that Texture gets absolutely bodied here by the drone, and Ethan's able to get the pick off. So Munchkin pushes back out. So the idea hasn't quite changed, right? Munchkin's like, okay, you know, we gotta go with plan B here a little bit. They've already gone for a skirmish, but they've backed out, so I'm really going to make sure that they get pushed out. You've already lost some of your utility here. Killjoy's been noted because, right, you had to fight the turret and everything. That's all been taken out. And so the game plan has changed. You're no longer looking to just buy time on A. Eventually, right, they're going through mid. You get that information. And Foxy9 is still concerned about a potential lurk. There's always two sides to this coin. Yeah, maybe there is another lurk. It always sucks to get picked off from behind. You feel silly. It looks dumb, right? And it's always like, well, you should have always checked, behind you one more time. But again, there's only 20 seconds left in the round. You don't exactly have a good route over to your team. Your buys weren't great. The team had committed to a bit of an extreme decision, right? Where you're trying to force the win condition, even though it's a very unlikely one. And like, there's firefights here. There's firefights here. There's comms here on, are we going to get locked up and be main or not? You've lost some of your util, and there just wasn't any change. It's hard to straight up criticize it, just because it's like, yes, with the main force being here, initially you should be watching main, right? Because again, the ideal scenario is that these two are meant to defend tree. Like, even if they lose one, like even if they lost texture, Munchkin is meant to defend this, and Foxy's meant to be the guy who says, if they get distracted in tree, I'm blocking them off in main. So initially I have no problem with that. But once Munchkin pushes out here, let's say he's holding on to main and two people come in here, you're still in no man's land. Now, you could win a sick 1v2. It's possible. But you're kind of in a pigeonhole, right? You don't really have a way out other than you have to outfrag them. And you're already down in numbers. So it seems like a lot of the movement from Foxy9 is very, very passive. It's very like, all right, this is my job. I'm doing my job. I got one job to do, and I'm doing that job. And he is doing that job. He's doing a pretty darn solid job of it, but he's doing one job. And the way Gen G has played in 2024 kind of relies on everyone doing two jobs or more. Now, again, is this strictly something that Foxy9 needs to learn on his own, or is it something that Gen G has to adapt to? Maybe. It's a new roster. I mean, you can't just plug and play every time. But personally, I do think that their core philosophy of, kind of each taking turns, making sure that you are getting proactive information is pretty solid. I think it's a really good base to build upon. So I do think it'd be good for Foxy9 to be able to at least learn that and have some more initiative. Now, there could be a case where maybe he felt he wasn't ready for it, so the team discussed it and said, okay, like for this tournament, you're not doing that. You're going to focus on the one job, and we're going to take things step by step. I mean, let's be honest, Gen G didn't exactly look like they were going to win an international in their one off-season showing last year at Convergence, because they almost lost to True Rippers. True Rippers looked great, but I'm just saying, like, at that point, no one was looking at Gen G and being like, this team's going to win a Masters. So, maybe another month. Maybe you let him cook for a little bit more. He picks that up. But for now, it does feel like he's very much kind of, this is my job. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to sit here. I'm going to guard this. I'm going to get information if it comes to me. That's what I'm getting from Foxy9. Now, there are times when Foxy's job involves having to be in the right place at the right time, and he does it pretty well, right? So I just want to give credit where credit is due. But I do want to point out, well, let's watch it first. So if you watch this round, it's round 4 in the second rematch against Sentinels and deciders of their group at the SVL. And it's going to be an A hit, right? So you're set up for information outside of mid. Meanwhile, Foxy9, he's just waiting to see, is anyone going to push out, right? Was anyone waiting here in sewers over on A short? And it's not going to happen. So the entry happens, and immediately Foxy9 starts going through. He wants to make sure that he creates a crossfire, or at least he gets information. He's not just going to wait around. He pushes in. He gets one pick. He does get picked off by Zelsis, but at the end of the day, he gets the information, right? You have the numbers advantage. You know now for a fact that he's stuck there. He's smoked off. And so you have faith that your teammates are going to be able to carry this through. Now, I just want to say that there is the caveat that this was obviously meant to be a five-man hit onto A. So maybe things were a bit simpler, but sometimes, like, we've seen teams where, someone's like, all right, well, I'm going to wait to see if anyone pushes out. Like, I'm waiting. No one's pushed out. And it's like, well, like, could we get a little crossfire here, please? Like, we see that at the highest level. And This wasn't the only time it happened. Listen, I'm just picking this out because it was one that I noted. But there are times when he's there for the trade. So I think when he's told that he needs to trade at a certain time, or that he needs to be the one who's swinging out, things like that, he's actually pretty active. I mean, a lot of times I would say maybe sometimes he does it too much, where he's actually swinging out before the team's ready, something like that. But it's not that he's just baiting. It's not that he's just trying to protect his KD. But it does very much feel like when the objective or the mission is a firefight, he's pretty on board. But when it's about controlling space and getting information, which can come through frags, but sometimes it comes through other means, that's where he ends up looking like he has a bit too much to think about. So let's take a look at a round where it's quite clear that Foxy's just he's trying to figure out what the answer is here, right? What the play is. So he's alone on C. This is going to be playing a little bit faster here by 1.5 speed, but he's over on C. Actually, let's slow this one down, just because that will give us a better feel for what exactly is going through his head. So the setup here is that, okay, you're going to push out, you're going to get information over on A, right? No op, but you are going to look for that. You do have a Viper's Pit ready, but it's not going to be used. You get a Nanoswarm just to delay any sort of fast plant onto B, but otherwise it's information in garage, and then a Nanoswarm to delay over by C as well. Half armor, so the econ's not looking great. You're just trying to stay afloat for the next round as well. Foxy9 is all alone over on the C side, and immediately we see that he's trying to hold close, right? He wants to be ready to fight whatever, especially with full ults. Like, it's either you're going to be fighting close on site and just hoping that you get some trades or you get a kill or two, or you probably should be looking to be ready to empty it. And so the choice is, on both sides it seems, hey, we want to try to combat this before it happens. So right off the bat, Munchkin's going to try to go for some spam. You go for the deep smoke on A, you get some information, and immediately they see the fast lane coming up. And so Foxy9's like, okay, they had the read. It looks like it's going to be a fast hit over by C. I'm ready for this. Poison Orb goes up, but meanwhile, Foxy is just stuck in the Poison Orb with his own Nanoswarm. This is their Poison Orb, by the way. And so I get why he goes into it, right? With the neon and everything, you hear them sprinting up. You want to make sure that they don't get by, especially because you don't have any more vision and your teammates have been smoked off. So that part's fine. Like, getting into the fast lane itself is fine, or getting into the smoke to see if you can get any extra kills is fine. But why in the world did we activate our Nanoswarm and then stand on top of it, right? So that's one thing. So now he's low, and the timings are starting to run out. So now he's on the other side because he was looking for it, and he's crossing over. He's trying to just check the other side as well. He clears it. Now a smoke refresh comes up so that he can reposition. So they're masking his position, and he's like, okay, well, this is a terrible spot to be in because I have nowhere to go. So I'm going to relocate to the other side of the site. That's fine. But he's like backing out, and he's looking for an angle, and then he's like, wait, hold on. Do I hold an off angle here? Like, maybe I should hold an off angle right before the timer runs out. And then he mistimes the smoke, and he's looking to put out an ability. It's very clear that this was a late thought, right? Like, either you were thinking about it ahead of time, or you had a really good internal timer, so you just like put it up right in the last 2 seconds. But I was just going to say, from the way he's walking, he's like backing up as much as possible to create some distance. And then he's like, oh, hold on. I'm going to get close, hold a little bit of an off angle, maybe get a cheeky pick. And then he's like, oh, maybe I want to get some information in the smoke as well. And there is no internal timer here. By the way, GENG like kind of knows that it's here, because during that time, because you slowed them off in typical GENG fashion, they go for fast dominance in other parts of the map. You still have the alarm bot here. You've pushed up into mid. You don't see anything in A main. Like, you know it's coming. And trying to stand your ground and fight is fine. It can be fine. I mean, maybe you help draw out ultimates. Like, I don't know. Like, that can be a lot of hindsight. It also just depends on the angles you're holding and things like that. I'm not always going to say it's risky. It's riskier than backing out and going for a 5-man retake, but also they have 5 ults. So, like, just going for a 5-man retake without putting up a fight you're probably losing. So I'm fine with him staying. I'm fine with him staying and fighting. It's just that the decision seems a bit late, and it seems a bit haphazard. So he mistimes that. He thankfully gets 1 kill, but he gets traded off immediately. And now you have no information because the site's empty, so it's a quick refill by Texture, and they're able to draw out the ultimates and things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't go very well in terms of trying to hold off against the entry itself. I actually don't remember if they win this round because I was so focused on the beginning part of it. But yeah, they're gonna mask Verno. Verno just gets that information, backs out, and Ethan wins that fight. So again, it doesn't fall apart just because of Foxy9, but it's one of those things where it's like he's got too much going on in his head and he can't make up his mind. And I don't know, it could be nerves. It could just be that maybe he's not as used to having to work around GENG's style, which I wouldn't blame him, to be honest. Like if your previous team didn't always play like that, you have to have so much agency on your own to make your own decisions to fit into GENG's style. And that's, and then it needs to be an ever-flowing like comms machine amongst the entire team that helps Munchkin also make, overarching decisions. So it's a tough thing to learn. I do think so, but you can learn it. And this was just one of those rounds where we could kind of tell like, oh boy, like he's got a lot on his plate right now. There were also just a couple other rounds where you could tell that Foxy like either couldn't make up his mind or he made up his mind, but then he was told to do something else and his pathing was kind of very wishy-washy, right? He's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I get info here. Oh, never mind. I'm going to back out. I'm going to get info here. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm going to play off my turret. Oh, like there was a lot of either hesitancy or double backing against his own decisions. So again, is it comms? Is it desync between the team? Is it Foxy just, maybe being left to his own devices and trying to learn how to handle the decision making? Who knows what exactly it might be, but that does need to get cleaned up a little bit. And at some point, I do think it's better to make a wrong decision confidently than to not be able to make a decision and then, get caught mid-decision. So there's some consideration to be had there as well, I think, as a team for GENG. Now, speaking of duels and trying to go for off angles and things like that, let's take a look at another round here against NRG in the finals. It's round 9 of Haven. Texture and Foxy9 immediately re-clears Garage. NRG actually comes in and immediately clears themselves. This is on normal speed. Yeah, it felt a little fast. But basically what happened is, right, GENG got a good read. They're able to identify that NRG has to be Garage because you got nothing tagged here, and nothing tagged here. And so Texture and Foxy9 go for a nice re-clear with the relay bolt. They get a double kill. And then NRG goes for a nice re-clear, assuming that they would have emptied it out. And they were able to get some control of it. But Foxy9 picks off FNS again as well. Now, this round, actually, they end up winning. So I'm not just trying to point out failures here. But Foxy9, after that pickoff, like, they exit with Texture. Let's rewind it so you guys can kind of see it in action. But immediately, you're going to exit. Foxy9 is going to go for the reload. They go for a little bit of safety. And now that they lost information, Foxy9 goes for the repeak. I like that part. He goes for a second one as well in case they're ready for it. But then now he's hiding behind default. There's still 2 people left here. And to be very honest, I don't know at this point in a 5v2 if, like, this position's good for a frag. I'm not convinced it's necessarily good for the win. But I guess considering that it's 5v2, as long as you get one, sure. If it's a one and done position, that's fine. The only problem being that he holds angles like this like all the time. Like we saw it earlier, right? He's holding an off angle here against the smoke. He actually loves to hold this off angle, peeking right into the edge of hallway. He was using it quite a bit against Sen as well. And so this isn't exactly an unknown position anymore for anyone who was studying his VODs. And eventually in this one, he's still able to get another, right? He gets the kill onto Verno, and so they will win the round. But this is something I kind of felt. Maybe I should have done a full count to see exactly just how many rounds I'm seeing that happen. But it's something that I felt was happening fairly often, where Foxy's in a position where he's like, well, I can win this duel. And he often does. He often wins that first duel. He's in a position where he can catch people by surprise. He's in a position where he can actually swing out for the initiative. But he's not always in a position where he can really drag out the fight to give time for his teammates to work off of it. Or, like, let's say if he fails, like, he doesn't really have a good fail-safe, a plan B. And that's something that I've noticed a little bit, where I think even that small adjustment could maybe help them a bit more, where it's just a reminder that the frag, it doesn't have to be how you always get the information. Seeing them and backing out, or getting one frag and just constantly jiggling and annoying them. Like, there's multiple ways to get information so that your team can work around it, especially a team like GENG, where they are very good at immediately circling around the information that they have. Now, this round, it's much easier because there's only one person left, and so actually him re-swinging out even wider got them the information they needed. All right, he's the last guy. Let's go to garage. So it works out, but it just seems like that's a habit thing more than a this was the right move in this specific round thing. Now, last but not least, I want to mention that all of this also has to be tied into the comms as well. So, when you're able to get that information, how do you relay it, and how do you relay it, and how does your team work off of it? The only thing I want to say, though, I'm bringing this point up because I think it's important, and I think they all tie together, right? So, for instance, if you're only waiting to get passive info as a Sentinel, and you're like, well, I'll let you know when they trip it. I'll let you know when they, get rid of my alarm bot or they get rid of my nanoswarms. Like, you're probably not going to comm much unless they destroy it, right? So you're not really adding much more so that your team can actively identify where the weaknesses are and what they need to do within the next 10 seconds each time. So maybe if you're proactive now, you'll have more to say, and maybe you'll be a bigger part of the comms, or maybe you'll be making that decision. Now, again, I'm not listening into their comms the whole time, so I don't know for a fact, but it does feel like that. At the same time, actually, if you look back at some of GENG's plays, it's like Meteor and Lakia and Munchkin, like the three of them getting constant information like across the entire map. And so there's a lot of bouncing back and forth too, right? Like it's like Meteor on this side, especially on a map like Haven. It's like Meteor defending on one side. It's going to be Lakia getting information with the Sky on the other. And then immediately, like as soon as one person gets information, I'm just going to assume a call is made and immediately the other person goes for information. And there's a lot of this ping-ponging back and forth. So maybe it's also like having to ingrain two people that actually need to be a key part of that comms structure and the call structure, right? So Foxy9 on the Sentinel, Yeoman on the Initiator, the Info Initiator. Maybe that's what's needs a bit more time. Maybe that's what needs a bit more time for GENG, because those are two very, very big pillars that then boosted and amplified Munchkin's IGLing capability even more. So I don't want to start pointing fingers without solid evidence, but I do think it all ties in together where, excuse me, being able to actually go out and get your information and understanding that staying alive and getting that information, there are ways to do that without fragging, is a good way to then start adding to the comms. And then it all starts to click and flow together. To show you what that looks like, or what it didn't look like, let's take a look at GENG in 2024. In fact, let's take a look at the last moments where we still thought that GENG was a strong favorite to win champions before everything went wrong. So this is their, I believe, first matchup against Sentinels. In the opening match of Champions Soul. It's on Haven, and GENG is going to be on defense. Immediately, we're going to note that we have Meteor here. You've got a Nanoswarm just to delay on C, but otherwise you're looking for information and slowdown both in Garage and B. The setups are a bit more varied too, but that's much more a team thing, so I'm not gonna harp on that too much. But I will just say, like, Foxy9 was basically using like two different setups the whole time, so maybe again they just need some more reps as a team. But we'll let this round play out and see where we're able to see Meteor get a bit more information. So initially, we're going to see Munchkin actually get taken out as they're trying to vie for information. It's a good counter. The casters call it out as well here from Tens and Sentinels to go against the toxic screen. So Meteor starts to get a bit more busy as well. Initially, he was just hiding here to make sure that he was ready to swing out if he needed to onto C. It's not going to happen, so he starts to back in. Charon tries to go for a bit more information. You lose out on that information. Now, what's funny is he went in for that information. He gets the cipher. So Lakia immediately tries to go for the rotate. And immediately, Meteor's already pushing out. Meteor's already pushing out. He still has setups here. They don't actually have any information elsewhere. Can we just rewind a bit? So you lose out Munchkin. You've lost vision on A. So something happens here where the call is made that we need more information on A. However, we also need fail safes, right? Because maybe there's no information, or maybe Charon dies, or whatever happens. So we can't just sit around and wait, both Texture and Meteor here, and just say, well, we'll twiddle our thumbs until we know for a fact that it's going to be A, and then we'll rotate. So both of them start to position themselves in a way where they are able to cover more parts of the map. And they've already made the decision that if need be, C is going to be empty, right? You've already made this decision as a team. Whoever made the call, good job. You're going to start to position yourself so that you can go 2 different ways. And then you're going to come in here as well to get a little bit more proactive information. And worst case, maybe you send them into Karen. Now, Karen gets that kill. They think it's C. Texture was going to go into the site, and meanwhile, Locky was going to head out, but he immediately gets traded, and they're like, well, hold on. I think there's still more people here. So Texture's going to start coming back to the A side, and Meteor is like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep on moving forward, because if they're still there and we just gave them that information, I need to make sure that we have a win condition. So the Seekers come out to keep them tied up, and that gives Meteor the confidence to push out. Now, is there a world where someone could have been waiting here and then they just peek out and get him on a timing? Sure. Like, that happens all the time. But instead of trying to play it, you know, with 100% information, Meteor just says, okay, the win condition here is that the likelihood is that they're still here. The Seekers make sure that they're somewhere here, you know, either waiting to get into window or something, but Meteor hasn't seen them yet. He's already made the call to push out, because what they understood is that, well, if we kind of stay split up as 1-1-2 or 1-1-1 at that point, 3v4, like, we're not winning this unless, again, individually we just get double, triple kills. And so you've already made that call. He comes all the way up into window. He hears them firing past the Seekers, and he hears the reload as well. So now you know, because you heard gunfire here, but then you heard the reload here, that the rotation's happening. So then you make the call. Texture's moving over, and then Meteor just waits to see, okay, is there a re-peek? Is there a re-clear? You know, is there anyone I can get off? He gets the easy kill onto 10s, and now Lakia stays back just in case. You still have the nano swarm. You still got information here that if someone's able to sneak by, Meteor can, you know, make sure that he gets into safety. And Texture understands that he's just holding onto here. Brilliant lockdown, by the way. I know this caught a lot of us off guard initially because it was such a weird lockdown, but really what it does is denies any sort of post plan here on C, right? And pushes them all into the gunfight. Your teammates were already ready for it. What a call. That has to be so much faith on the team. But then they win the retake. But aside from the lockdown and all of that fanciness, it's really just the idea that, hey, we lost control here. We're going to fight for this. But meanwhile, we're not going to just sit here and be like, well, I'll tell you if they rotated or not. Like, because guess what? Karen's going to tell you if they rotated or not. Like, that's Karen's job now. So your job is going to be to say, I either picked them off, or I either got confirmation that they rotated, that they're not just hiding outside of a main, or that, hey, I'm actually going to be able to get some picks free so we can actually pinch aggressively. Like, you're creating a win condition rather than saying, okay, well, like, let us know. I'll let you know too. And just waiting. And so this is just, it's very obviously stark contrast, but this is what I mean when I say you're going out to get information. Even if Meteor had not gotten the free kill onto 10s, it's information that he confirms, right? Okay, they shot the Seekers here. Not only did you see it on the minimap, I heard it. He probably says something like, I only hear one gunshot, but I hear the reload. They're going over towards C. I'm holding window. I'll wait to see if there's more information. And so at that point, the decision was made. The Texture is going to wait here and Lakia is going to wait here, because there could still be more people here. So Lakia is waiting, but Lakia is able to wait on site because he knows if things go awry, Meteor is able to immediately try to get them on an off timing from behind. Texture, meanwhile, he's not going to go into no man's land, because if he's here, no one can trade for him immediately. But if he's here, he can run back, and Lakia can come over here, right? It's a bit of a run, but you've still got some sort of backup. So there is this kind of neural network that's going on. And so if we really want to drive the point home, we can actually take a look at how Meteor's looking on his new team on T1. Now, I believe I mentioned this a little bit when we got to watch them at the Gwangju Esports Series 2, where I was casting with Paperthin. But I do think Meteor actually brings so much to this team as well. And I'm not trying to glaze him. I am not saying that I think Meteor is like a bigger or better superstar than any other player, you know, let alone players like Texture, who's still on Gen G. But I do think that the way he plays Sentinel and the way he's able to add to the comms and the calls of the team really, really makes the team that he's playing on very much more confident, and actually brings up the best in them. And I think it's helping Stacks a lot as an IGL, at least from what we've seen in the offseason. So this was at the Red Bull Homeground Finals, where eventually T1 was able to get the victory. And if we take a look at the attacking side, T1 is prepped for a C-site hit, and Meteor is tasked with holding information on 2 different parts of the map just to see if they have any other options. Right off the beginning, you're going to see that Meteor has not used any util just yet, right? So no prior setup. Immediately, it's going to be a cyber cage goes out. That's set up. and he's ready for it. I think the cam probably missed there, but then he comes back after the smoke, right after any potential shock darts. He's going to put up that tripwire. So already you're kind of staying ahead of things. You're saying, all right, I don't want my efforts to be in vain. If it's a smoke, as long as it's not a fast rush, and if it is, we're just going to call for them to come out for the duel anyway. He just says, all I need to do is wait, because guess what? My job is to just make sure that I hold information on the other half of the map. After the tripwire, cam doesn't quite work out, so he's just peeking out. Doesn't see anything. Meanwhile, team is creeping up into C. And our timer is not even at a minute. We haven't even passed 40, so we haven't even passed 30 seconds. And Meteor can tell you there was no immediate push out. There was nobody who snuck into the smoke. So nobody is on our flank yet. And nobody has information on B. So there's two things that are going on here. Something that T1 knows for a fact is, well, nobody's here. And that there's basically, you've denied information on B. Nobody's watching for B. This is out of C9's calculation. Now, the other thing is you believe you've denied information on A, right? You have the early cyber cage here. Another cyber cage here in case someone was able to peek out, by the way. But the first cyber cage was used, so you denied some information. You're thinking, all right, we denied, we kind of counted their own smoke, so now neither of us have information. Now, this part's the part where T1 made an assumption, and it doesn't go quite well. But already off the minute, Meteor is able to get so much information for this team. They're creeping up. The idea is that they basically faked pressure on A, and they're going to try to creep up, and Meteor's there for the flank and something like that. Now, C9 does a very fast flood of the site. As soon as they get an inkling, it's a good read from C9 as well, so they have to back out. But he's even able to put the cam into the site. And so he's really able to just dig in for more information. Now, he gets an inkling about Garage because they don't have information on it. Unfortunately, C9's very fast on this. So credit to C9 where it's due. And Meteor was a little bit in no man's land. I do think things break off a little bit here where Meteor suddenly went from, I'm going to get information from my team, to, oh my God, I have to get multi-kills, whether it's in the site or out, for my team to be able to get a win. So it doesn't quite work out, but he does take the initiative to push out and get that information. Now take a look at another round, right? It's going to be round 7. I'll let it play out a little bit, but keep note of Meteor here, right? So immediately you're using the Hunter's Fury as well. Great from Izu. Gets good tags, get good kills. But during all of that, during that entire chaos and just unleashed right at the beginning of the round, if we rewind a bit, within the first 10 seconds, you set up the camera, it's able to peer into Garage. Nothing there, it doesn't get taken out, you know it's safe. Now you have some information to see if anyone lurks out on B as well. After that, immediately, before the 10 seconds pass, Meteor has gone and looked to see, is there a reaction off the Hunter's Fury? Is there a quick push out? Is there someone who's coming out to catch us from behind or try to set up for a quick peek just to get information, right? Are they going for these fast reclears cross map? There isn't. And that allows him to say, maybe they pushed up, but T1 has no reason to want to go to C right now. They've already made up their mind. And so even if someone's sitting here, Meteor doesn't care. All he needs to know is, there's no one immediately on my 6. I've gotten the information I need, and I'm going to start regrouping with the team. And so this gives him time to now join the forces way ahead of time, right? Again, a little bit, it's the small differences of, am I going out to get the information, and do I know exactly what type of information do I need? Like, does he need to peek all the way into C site? Is he meant to be bait? Is he meant to be another fake? Is he meant to leave another option for another rotate? Whatever it might be. But he just says, okay, there's no reaction off of the Hunter's Fury. There's no peeks. There's no sound. There's no util. Cool. So they're pretty passive on C. They have no information peeking out of Garage. And so now I'm going to regroup, and we're going to work his 5. It's a very, within 20 seconds, all of that has happened. So these are just some small examples. And again, are they cherry picked? A little bit, but quite frankly, at least the Meteor portion, I think most of us by the end of the year, it came around on, okay, like Meteor provides a lot of value for this team, and not just in the fragging department. Now the fragging helps, right? That entire squad of the 2024 Gen G, they were all very cracked. Like, they were always getting, eco rounds, thrifties with the sheriffs. They're always getting these, 1 taps, 2 taps, 3 taps with the guardians. That helps a lot because now you're feeling more confident to push out and get information. But my point is a lot of these times, a lot of the positions they're taking, they don't actually have to get the kill to get the information. And also, something I want to note is that if you're able to relay this information and then it goes back and forth, the knowledge you have of the potential positions of your opponents is going to make you aim better, right? You're going to know what to expect. You're going to know if you want to swing out or not. Like, your informations will be somewhat more guided. It's always going to be still a slight game of chance, whether your opponent's ready for it or not, but it does get you a bit better prepared. And I think that matters a ton at the highest level. And I think that's something that we're missing yet from Foxy9 and the new GENG squad. We're not seeing all of that come together. We're not seeing Foxy9 able to really dig in for that information himself. And we're not able to see him find that consistent confidence of, is this a situation where the frag is important and gets me the win? Or is this a situation where I need to just get more position to be able to make an educated decision with the rest of the team? All in all, I still rate GENG very highly. Yes, I'm not going to be surprised if they're not at the same level that they were at the end of the year. In fact, I think that would be the impressive part. I do think maybe they'll start, just one step below. I still have a lot of faith in the potential of that team because I think the core parts of it are still going to be very strong. We're already seeing some aspects of how they're interpreting the current meta, what they're looking forward to in terms of compositions and things like that, and how they're adapting the core aspects of their defaults and their foundations about Valorant from 2024 into 2025. I think that's very exciting. I really think that if you want to, especially within Pacific, like if you're looking for a team where you can glean a lot of like basic fundamentals of how to play Valorant in the current meta, I think GENG is going to continue to be one of those teams. I think they're going to be very fun to pick apart and see why they make certain decisions and how they adapt, because it looks simple, but they have so many fail safes and they have so many different steps. But again, that all happens when the comms are good. So hopefully they can get there, maybe even during kickoff, because that would be amazing to see. That's going to be it for this one. Also, I just want to mention that a lot of you have asked, are you going to do your pick'ems? I know the bracket is out. Yes, I will be doing pick'ems, but we've still got a month in. So I'll probably wait until we cross the new year. And once the calendar turns into January, we'll do our pick'ems. We'll go through the bracket. We'll analyze all of the offseason and put it together and see if we can get close to a perfect bracket for the very first VCT tournament of the year out here in Pacific. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile too, and I'm actually going to be grinding that quite a bit more during the offseason as well. But don't worry, Valorant's still here. I've been watching more, Valorant as well. We're back in the grind. Valorant videos will be continuing each week as well. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten my roots. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Make sure to leave a comment below if you enjoy this type of content. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys next time.